Alright, what's up guys, Elbareth here, and I'm gonna echo Metro here in his video of the top 5 things he liked and disliked about Cataclysm the expansion, and this is my response video. So I'm gonna start out with the 5 things I did not like about Cataclysm. Now number 5, so this will be from the least worst to the most worst, so number 5 is the least worst. I didn't feel like there was anywhere else to go but sit in Stormwind. Like, in Wrath of the Lich King, we had Dalaran, but in Dalaran you had the opposite faction in the same city as you, so it felt like a bigger community. In Cataclysm, we all just sat in Stormwind. There was no point to go anywhere else. Like, you would do dailies for about 10 minutes and then fly back to Stormwind and sit next to the portals or near the auction house or sit on the top of the auction house, roof like I do all the time and just sit AFK. And I think that's really sad because, I enjoy exploring the new world that they had made, but there was no point for me to, except for to look at it once and then come back to Stormwind and sit. So I really think that they're going in a different direction in MoP to where it's going to be more beneficial to stay outside of your capital city and explore the actual world that they made. So number 4 is the lack of world PvP. With the introduction of flying mounts, we all knew that world PvP would change, and we didn't know if it was for the good or for the bad, but in my opinion it's for the worse. Especially because you cannot knock people off their mounts. Now I realize this is a good idea for certain zones where you go AFK and you don't want to get knocked off your mount, etc., etc. But it's just a hassle when there are players who do enjoy world PvP and would like to do it the right way, but they can't because there's just no opportunity anywhere. And a lot of people say, well, that's what Tolbarad was for, but it's not. Tolbarad was a joke. After you got done with the dailies, there was no point ever in going, back to Tolbarad at all. It was pointless and dumb. So the lack of world PvP really disappointed me. I'm really excited that they're going to try and go back to that in Mist Pandaria and going back to the right way of PvP, because I know there's a lot of people that gank people or whatever and they call it world PvP, but that's not really what world PvP is about. It's about, huge large-scale battles that there are no rules and you just, you can bring in more people and that's what's really fun, and not one person going around ganking people that are just sibling questing. So the third is probably a number 1 for a lot of people, and that's just Dragon Soul as a raid, period. I thought it was a complete failure as an end of expansion raid, and as a hardcore raider, I was just totally let down by the whole thing. The lore itself was just really dumb. I didn't enjoy going back to, basically Dragonblight where I've already been, expansion previous. And it's just, the fights were just, I get where they're coming from to where, they're new mechanics and stuff, but a lot of them forced raids to stack classes. And it made it a headache for guilds like mine who didn't necessarily have the classes and didn't want to take the time to recruit because we're trying to push progression at a fast pace. And it's just a complete utter failure on their part. Really, really bothered me, and it wasn't fun, really, to kill the end boss. When we killed Heroic Madness, actually I'm going to play a clip for you of our first kill here up in a second. None of us were excited. Like, you can hear somebody say, wow, that wasn't hard, because it wasn't. The hardest boss of the expansion was Heroic Spine, which was just a dumb fight. I mean, it was a 15-minute fight of just repetitive ad killing and lifting a plate and then stacking classes that can actually burn a tendon. And yeah, it was ridiculous. I mean, we went back to Heroic Spine. We actually cleared Dragon Soul without the nerf as a guild, and struggled on Heroic Spine for weeks because even with all our heroic gear, you had to have the right classes or you weren't going to kill the fight, and I just think that's a complete failure on their part. So here's the clip of us killing Heroic Madness for the first time, and you'll get a taste of how we actually felt and how just disappointing it was.
Yeah! Oh my god.
Too
Yes,
soon.
DPS.
Oh my god.
Too soon.
Holy shit!
Yes!
What the fuck?
Fuck yeah!
That wasn't as
That
excited
was
as Spike.
disappointing. Like, that wasn't even hard at all.
Spike was more excited.
Well, what the fuck you expect? Great, I died afterwards.
Equip your title immediately, guys.
So as you can see, just, you know, we were excited that we were done, but really it was just nothing like killing Ragnaros for the first time, which I think was the best boss that I've done so far, and or Lich King, which, you know, killing him for the first time I don't think you can really compare, but just Dragon Soul, it was a black mark on Cataclysm for me. So the number 2 thing is legendaries. Now, I like the direction they were going with it, but especially with the legendary staff, I feel like they made it a little too easy to get and then a little too necessary to have in your raid. So to be competitive, guilds were having to farm more than one legendary, and by more than one, I mean I think my guild had farmed now we're at 17 or 18 legendary staffs for our casters, which is ridiculous. No way should anybody be able to get, you know, 18 legendaries in a guild. And to be competitive at the beginning of Dragon Soul, that's what you needed, because it just was so OP. And same thing with the daggers. We have 4 or 5 daggers now in the guild, and I just think that's way too many. It just doesn't feel legendary. That just yeah, legendaries were poorly handled, and the fact that you had to keep farming them to be anywhere competitive just because of the proc they made was ridiculous. So that was another failure on Blizzard's part in Cataclysm. So my number 1 thing, and I know this won't be a number 1 for a lot of people because this is coming from a raider and a progression raider, is the split of 10 and 25, just making them equal, which I find is just stupid, because they're not the same raid. I have rated both 10 and 25 in Dragon Soul. I rated both 10 and 25 in Firelands and Tier 11, and they're not the same raid, so we cannot treat them as the same raid. But Blizzard just doesn't see the difference apparently, and it just makes it tough on, you know, competition between guilds, because, you know, on the server a 10-man might be realm first just because they're a 10-man, and it might be easier, it might not be easier. But in my opinion, it is easier with less people to organize, you know. So I think it was a failure to let 10 and 25 become equal like that. And it really bothers me, you know, seeing those 10-man guilds do well just because they don't have to deal with the problems of a 25-man guild. And there's nothing wrong with 10. I do enjoy rating 10, you know, on alt nights or just on nights where the 25 isn't progressing, because it's fun to hang out with 10 of your best friends and, you know, go kill bosses, because it's a nice, relaxing atmosphere. But I don't think that it should get the same achievements as 25, or 25 shouldn't get the same achievements as 10, because, like, I know a couple guilds that were 25 and split down to a 10 to get certain achievements, and I just think that's wrong. So I think they should split the achievements up for 10 and 25, and just because they're not supposed to be equal, and trying to keep them equal just causes problems for one of the largest communities in World of Warcraft. Alright, enough of the negatives. Let's switch to some positives and end on a good note here. So these are my top 5 positive things about Cataclysm. Top 5 things that I really liked. So we're going to start with 5, which is so we're going to go from 5 to 1, 1 being the best. So number 5, I'm going to agree with Metro here and say the revamped zones was one of my top 5 favorites. I really liked it. It was so exciting when Cataclysm was out, or actually the pre-patch was out, just to go explore and look what they did to the zones. It was an awesome time. I just remember flying around with my friends like, whoa, look at this, dude. There's gaps in the ground. There's like holes and shit. Shit's gone. Fucking Stormwind's all fucked up. Like, it was a good time, and I really think it made the World of Warcraft a much more interesting place to be, just because everything was different. Like, even the old crusty players from vanilla had something else to look forward to. Shit was revamped. It was awesome. So the number 4 thing is gonna be a little bit selfish, mostly because it deals with the class that I play and love, and that's Hunters. I was extremely apprehensive about the new changes that hunters were going to get in Cataclysm, and I've got to say it was the greatest thing they've ever done. I am so happy with how hunters turned out. I think the gameplay is much more smoother. I think it takes skill, but on their part, it's fun, it's enjoyable. It makes it a better class as a whole, and I am super glad they did what they did in Cataclysm. And I think that every other hunter could agree with me that hunters are better than ever. So, just the way they did the hunters in Cataclysm is just, oh, it was great, and really made Cataclysm a better expansion for me. So the number 3 thing is a little bit different, and that's the importance they put on guilds. So with the guild perks, they really stressed the need to be in a guild, which a lot of players do not like because they want to play solo. They don't want to have to deal with other people in the guild. They don't have to depend on a guild. But I think it's important for the community as a whole. I think it's really important that people have a guild to go back to hang out with, to do dungeons together, to get achievements together. I really think that improves the community as a whole, and I'm really glad that they put importance on the guild, to be in a guild. I think it's rare now to see people outside of a guild, just because all the perks you get of being in a guild, and they really push that by giving perks like experience bonuses and stuff like that. So number 2 is, number 2 could be number 1 for me, but you'll see why number 1 is number 1. Number 2 is raids. Really, I play World of Warcraft to raid, and I feel like Cataclysm was the best expansion for raids, apart from Dragon Soul, but the raids before it were so good that it doesn't even matter. So tier 11, I love the look of the zones. They looked amazing. They were great looking, even throwing the 4 winds. Wouldn't really consider that a raid. It was, I don't know. I mean, most people don't like it, but I don't know. The other 2 definitely outbalanced it. So BOT was awesome. All those boss mechanics were great. It was really fun. Blackwing Descent was awesome, except for, Neff, but even Neff wasn't too bad. Just raiding as a whole in Cataclysm was a good time, especially Firelands, which is my favorite raid of all time. And my favorite boss fight, Heroic Ragnaros, I think is the pinnacle of what Blizzard can do when they actually get a boss fight right. Every mechanic in Ragnaros is perfect. I think it plays off every skill that you could possibly have. You have to play perfect to get that fight down. Even now, you have to play perfect to get the fight down. And I think it's just what Blizzard can do when they actually do a fight right. And I really hope there's more of those fights, coming in Mists of Pandaria, because that's really what raiding is about, is playing at a high skill level to get a boss down, and not just, being able to sit back and press buttons and kill a boss. I really want to actually feel like I did something to kill a boss, and I really feel like they did that with Rag. So for the number 2, definitely raids is the number 2 thing I liked about Cataclysm. Just, man, I had such a good time raiding. And number 1 is going to be the same as Metro's. That's just the community. I feel like Cataclysm brought together a huge community, much different than Wrath. And I have never had more fun playing with other people than I did in Cataclysm. So that's got to be number 1 for me. I met so many people, my current guildies, everybody at Ace, through Cataclysm. So, you can't put that down. That was really such a great thing in Cataclysm, was to meet new people and have fun over a video game. So definitely, yeah, number 1 is definitely the community that I found through the World of Warcraft Cataclysm expansion.